What's up, current and future disc golf addicts? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be taking you along on a round at Moore Searight Park in the southern part of Austin, Texas. This is a course that I knew basically nothing about, but played purely out of convenience, since it happened to be close to our Airbnb where we were staying in the southern part of Austin. And this initial hole that you're seeing here is going to be very different than what you will be seeing from the rest of the course, and so it was really deceiving in that sense. And what I will also mention is that I also realized really late that there were actually tee signs for these holes, but they were tucked off onto these granite benches that I didn't fully notice were there. And so because of that, most of what I'm throwing is based off of what I think the distance is, purely on what I'm seeing. And with having Udisc too, I'm mostly looking for the shape of the hole if the basket wasn't visible. But I also found that the distances that Udisc was saying, and then once later on I noticed that there were tee signs, were hard to trust, at least in my opinion, where I felt like in some extreme cases the distances might have been as much as 50 to 75 feet difference, which is a clear difference in my game, to where that could be pushing me from throwing a putter to a mid, or even potentially a mid to a fairway, but at this course mainly being those mids and fairways. Now here what we're starting to see is a lot more of what I found Moore Searight to be about, which is these birdie opportunities that you have to be giving yourself, especially on these shorter holes. And what I found myself doing is really easily being baited into those ace runs, especially on holes that did have these subtle slopes where it would be easy to leave yourself with a lot longer of a putt than you might initially think trying to run everything. And what you're also seeing now is actually one of the unique features that I wasn't expecting, which I've actually begun to see a lot of here, it being only my third round in Texas, is these unique blind shots to where it's hard to get a sense of exactly where you need to be throwing, especially once you're playing your first time around. Moving on to hole 7. Hole 7 did actually have a Mando left, which is that right skinny tree. And again, a somewhat blind hole. I did walk off to right to make sure where the basket was, because this was one where I did doubt the distance a lot. And then hole 8, another one where I found it, I'm not sure whether it was just my game, but again, hard to trust the distance. But this one specifically, what you'll see here is that the green was actually very protected. And what I ended up learning on in my later rounds then was that you have to play hole 8 long and play for that comeback putt. Hole 9, a very different hole than a majority of the course, coming at 390 feet, where I'm trying to throw my most understable wraith on a sidearm. Ideally hit it on a touch of hyzer and have it flip up and ride left, but ended up releasing it flat, just trying to pitch up and hopefully take my par. And knowing what I've seen from the front 9, I knew that there would be plenty of birdie opportunities to come. It's just a matter of capitalizing where you do. Hole 10. This hole proved to be a little bit of a struggle for me, especially when I stepped up to the hole. I found it really tricky to find a clear, defined line. It felt like one where you had to use a little bit of creativity to see what you wanted to do. Initially, I was just trying to throw a mid-range hard and flat through the gap, kind of have it stall out, but end up releasing it early, and then leaving me with a ton of scramble shots here, and every single branch hit kicking me straight down and really punishing me there. Moving on to then what I believe was hole 11, which is just a sidearm hyzer. Relatively simple for me, especially relying on those harps. Just trying to give myself a long, or ideally as close of a look as I could, but ended up short arming it a little bit, leaving me with a slightly longer birdie putt, but still converting. Another one of the really cool features here at Moore Searight was these unique par 4s, which almost gave me a mini De La vibe of hole 1, with this ever so slight uphill moving up, and this really cool fairway that would bend very slowly left to right, basically snaking, but again, you don't want any aggressive left to right movement. Hole 13 was a blind hole, but if you're a taller person or you'd actually jump, you can kind of see the basket, but when you're releasing the disc out of your hand, you really need to trust your aiming point and ever so slightly drift the putter to the right for me, but I ended up releasing it a little bit low and really having no chance because it needs that height being uphill to just glide there. Hole 14 proved to be the hardest hole for me to get a read on of really where I was supposed to be throwing, and my initial thoughts stepping up to the hole was that it looked to be a lot more left than forward, but it actually ended up being relatively equal parts forward and off to the left, and so I ended up scrambling and taking a bogey there. Hole 15, by far the signature course of the hole, being a mini top of the world here. I'm trying to throw a harp on a flat or even a touch of anhyzer, knowing that it would fade back. I didn't want to throw it too high, even though there was this clear downhill slope. I found it really important to really try follow the shape of the fairway itself, and actually end up converting for a very long birdie putt there, which was good with all the unforced errors in those bogeys and worse that I have been taking this round. Moving on to the next hole, I particularly remember this was another one where I was struggling to believe the distances that I am seeing in Udisc, and also on the tee sign once I had realized, where I would completely change my approach for this hole if I were to play it again, where I was trying this over the top forehand hyzer, but knowing the distance now, I would have never had the power for it. Hole 17, another one where I was having difficulties getting a read on how far the basket was, even though you could see the basket. I'm throwing a rock 3 here thinking a mid-range hole, but end up going almost 60 feet long, and then having this really long comebacker, which never really had a chance. Ended up taking a par. Hole 18, a really cool, again, very what I found to be Texas-like fairway with those ever so slight left to right movements, but no aggressive left or right movement needed. Again, one that I was struggling to get a distance read on, so I was throwing a Thunderbird, but in hindsight, I should have disked down to something like a Bard, where give it a touch of anhyzer, really smooth it and follow that fairway and play with those soft angles. If you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content.